Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Today we're going to talk about a cartoon from the late 90s called Mummies Alive, done by Deke. This is something that would have come out when I was like 25 years old. I was married, didn't yet have any kids, and so, man, this wasn't on my radar at all. And in fact, if I hadn't have come across it like on YouTube, I don't know that I ever would have watched it. I think I have a very vague memory of it showing up at some point on TV. Like, you're flipping through channels. Only a vague memory of it, but not something that I ever watched. But I figured, let's give it a shot. Let's see if it was any good. And I think, sadly, I got to come down on the side of, well, there was a lot of initial potential, but it didn't meet that potential. And I think from watching it, I can tell why. So Mummies Alive follows the story of a young guy named Presley Carnarvon, who visits a museum. His mother is like in charge of this Egyptology exhibit. So he goes and visits, and in the process of being there and wandering around, he finds this display of mummies, and the mummies ultimately awaken and become his defenders, because he is this reincarnation of an ancient Egyptian prince named Raspes. And this prince is sort of being hunted by a character called Scarab. Scarab had been the advisor of Raspes' father, the pharaoh. But he was evil, and he betrayed the pharaoh, and now needs this boy in order to gain like ultimate power. Okay, I mean, there's your setup. Good adventure cartoon. The mummy characters are pretty cool. Definitely late 90s kind of vibe to the whole thing. You have Nefertina, voiced by Cree Summer, who's the woman in the bunch. They gotta have not just guys, gotta get a woman in there too. They have sort of a story about how she was like the royal chariot driver, and everybody thought she was a guy, even though you're kind of going, doesn't really look like they would have thought that, but okay. You have a character called Wrath, who is sort of this intelligent one, voiced by Scott McNeil. You have Armon, who, when he's in his untransformed form, is missing an arm. Get it? Armon. Voiced by Graham Kingston. And we have the leader, Jakal, voiced by Dale Wilson, who was like the chief of the Royal Guard. And so they have a normal mummy form, and then they can transform into these mummies with sort of this armor and these powers. And so they're going up against Scarab, who's kind of like your basic evil Egyptian wizard type. Some very cool design all around. It's well designed. And Scarab has this talking staff called Heka, who helps him with his evil schemes and such. Okay. So all in all, you got a pretty good setup. So where's the problem with the show? It was partially created by a couple folks who worked on Gargoyles for Disney. A lot of people have very fond memories of Gargoyles. I can remember watching a few of them. Again, I was a little old for it, but you could still tell a lot of quality there, a lot of good stuff. They came up with an interesting concept, this reborn person who is being hunted by this ancient Egyptian wizard who's trying to keep himself alive and gain this ultimate power. He's protected by these these reborn mummies. It's in San Francisco, interesting setting, good stuff. Overall, good character design. Problem is, and again, this might not have been a problem for the kids the show was intended for. May just be the problem of a 50-year-old guy watching it now. And the show did get like 42 episodes, so it did fairly well, but it didn't hit the heights, and it certainly didn't do what Gargoyles did, and it certainly doesn't have the continued cachet of Gargoyles. It, to me, is a really good example of a cartoon that got Poochied. That's a reference to The Simpsons. Corporate people came in and wanted something that could have been not necessarily serious, but you know, a little deeper and very cool. I think they wanted to liven it up and turn it into another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you get some things like this car that Wrath puts together. Okay, he's really smart, but he is an ancient Egyptian, and within a few episodes, he's built a car. Kind of weird, but would make a good toy. It's very flashy. You have some cringy sort of catchphrases. The one that comes to mind is, "Let's kick some tut." Okay, come on. Like, it's kind of anachronistic. I don't know the Pharaoh's guards would be substituting the name of a pharaoh for a part of the human anatomy. Doesn't make that much sense. And at times, even though these characters clearly look like mummies, I mean, they have sort of, you know, the grayish kind of skin and the wrappings. Modern humans don't seem to notice. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. I know that looks like that guy is screaming like, "I've seen a mummy." He's not. He's screaming about something else. This is when the Wrath character had lost his memory and hooks up with some homeless people. They just sort of like, "Okay, well, come along, buddy." No problem. So a little bit weird. And so some of the aspects of it felt like it had gotten noted and the corporate types had gone in there and taken what could have been a very cool concept right up there with Gargoyles and made it kind of goofy. Now, like I say, the cartoon was done by Deke. It is an action cartoon. There is a very cool sequence of them transforming into this sort of, I don't know, armored form, which they reuse a lot, which is what that's for, right out of anime. You know, the Presley character, kind of cool, like the name Presley, Elvis Presley, Memphis, get it? Last name kind of harkens back to Discoverer of King Tut's tomb. You get some really cool villains who maybe don't live up to their potential either. Anubis and these dog guys who are there to track. You get like I think they called him Geb, so the Earth Spirit. An earth god, but whatever. Or no, that's not right. Wait, was Geb? Yeah, I think Geb was the earth god. I'm going back to my Deities and Demigods book from back in D&D days. You get the snake dude who, now he does scare some normal people in that form. These insect guys, etc. A hydro water guy who's kind of a prankster. Decent stuff. Where it breaks down a little bit is in the fight scenes. It's an action type show. So you're going to have fight scenes. And they do. But Deke, to me, is not known for especially fluid movement in their cartoons. The pacing is usually a little slow, especially when it's human figures moving around. Deke had sort of worked out a semi-anime style that you could see a lot of anime in it. You could see some European comics in it too. Maybe call it Euranime. But they didn't quite catch anime's ability to have that quick, fluid movement. Even kind of the stuff that you got from, you know, Looney Tunes back in the 30s and 40s. The distortions and things like that in order to give that illusion of very fast movement. And so while some of the stuff looks really good animation-wise, it kind of breaks down a little bit in the action scenes. And, well, again, it's an action cartoon. So that's kind of a problem. There are a few story problems as well, but again, it's made for kids. That's not necessarily a big deal. And the show did get 42 episodes, so the show did not do terribly poorly. But I think DiC was maybe not the best studio to animate it from that action standpoint, and that sort of got in the way. The acting seems a little bit too laid back quite often. Again, that's kind of a DiC thing. It's not like, doesn't have the same energy that you got with G.I. Joe or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know. And let's be honest, G.I. Joe and the Turtles don't do amazing fight scenes, but it still works a little bit better than this. There are some cutesy elements, which, again, great for kids, but they kind of undercut what the show could have been. You know, we get the Devourer shows up as sort of this little dog-like creature that Scarab keeps around. We got a mummified cat that, again, this kid's sort of hiding the mummies from his mom. I don't know, look, is it in the garage? No, the mummies ultimately make a base at the museum, but they do spend some time in his house too. It's kind of odd. At any rate, I think what you get ultimately with Mummies Alive is like a C- cartoon that, with just a little tinkering, could have been a C+ cartoon. And without the corporate nonsense, probably could have been an A cartoon. It could have really been big pop culture wise, just like Gargoyles was. I think it had the bones, if you'll excuse the phrase, but had the bones, but got a little too much tinkering from people who were non-creative, and I think that hurt it ultimately. So there you go, 1997's Mummies Alive. Is that a cartoon you remember from your youth? All you youngsters out there, all you little millennial kids, was this one of your favorites? Is something you watched? Was it not? Hey, let me know in the comments. If you have any questions about the show, please put those in the comments as well, and I'm very happy to answer those questions if I can. If you enjoyed the review, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. I'd really appreciate that. Until next time, God bless everybody. Be kind to one another, please. Try to have a little bit of fun out there. I'll see you again. Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.